During a recent TikTok Tuesday, I watched a video where a guy saw a sign in someone's yard expressing support for Donald Trump. And in response, let's just watch it again. That's a pretty funny prank, I'm not gonna lie. Now, the sign says Trump Pence, not Trump Vance. So this home security footage is from either the 2016 or 2020 election. But the video began to recirculate in the run-up to 2024 because, well, it's still really funny. The idea that this random dude would get so angry at someone he didn't know supporting a different political candidate than him that he would run onto someone else's property and commit vandalism, and that the owner of the property accurately predicted his response, well, it's just instant karma, you know? The idea of booby-trapping your own property in order to have an automated reaction against an aggressor is an old one, and it's pretty easy to think of wartime examples. Things like landmines, or tripwires that trigger a bomb to go off, or a heavy weight to fall, or false floors that drop the victim into spikes. These sort of things have all been embedded into our cultural consciousness as basically unfair tactics. It's one thing to directly confront an enemy with weapons, or to defend a high wall by lobbing things over it, whether that's arrows, rocks, or boiling tar. But it's another thing to have an automated defense system, where the aggressor is hurt while having no actual chance at striking the defender. These things are effective, sure, but they're kind of viewed as dishonorable for the same reason something like a drone strike is. However, you can't argue with the results. The name booby trap comes from the Spanish word bobo, which has two meanings. The first is stupid, foolish, simpleton, basically the idea that the person is low intelligence. The second is naive, clown, funny man, person who is easily cheated, basically the idea the person is humorous due to having little understanding of the world. The Spanish origin of bobo is the Latin balbus, which means to stammer, and was one of the many words used to describe people of non-Roman origin back in the day. Balbus is one of the origins of the word barbarian, used because the Romans didn't respect foreign languages. The Spanish slang of bobo, booby, translates to dunce, which neatly combines both meanings into one English word. The phrase booby trap was used in English for hundreds of years before World War I to describe juvenile pranks, stuff like school kids messing with each other for fun. In Spanish, booby came to refer to the sula bird, a goofy-looking bird that is slow and clumsy on shore, making them pretty easy to catch, though they are capable enough marine hunters. Boobies are also pretty stupid. They have no fear of humans, and they commonly land on ships where the crew would just eat them. Back in the English language, a booby prize is what's given to a loser of a competition, generally an object of low value. And in the first half of the 20th century, the word booby or boob was a generic insult for a stupid person. Considering that booby means something different nowadays, going back to read old comic books can sometimes be a wild ride. This is much the same type of thing as a boner originally meaning stupid mistake. So yeah, a lot of those old comments hit a bit differently in 2024, that's for sure. I'm laying all this out to say that the phrase booby trap means something that is so obvious only an idiot would fall for it, where the victim of the trap only has himself to blame for his predicament. That covers the guy grabbing the Trump sign and getting shocked pretty well. He did something he should not have been doing, and the trap punished him for it. The more damaging or even lethal booby traps I described earlier didn't become commonplace until World War I, where complex mechanisms were designed by the militaries of several countries. As a result, various types of grenades and trip mines, and later car bombs, exploding cigars, exploding cell phones, all became lodged into the cultural consciousness as clandestine ways of killing your opponent. Of course, there are non-lethal exploding cigars too, ones that pop and flash when lit but don't actually hurt you. Same with the dribble glass, which leaks water when you tilt it, or the snake nut can, which appears to be a can of salted nuts that blasts a bunch of fake snakes into the face of the opener, or the electric stick of gum, which shocks anybody who tries to pull the stick out of the package. Booby traps as practical jokes flourished in the post-war era, as the various wartime mechanisms used for more complicated and more lethal booby traps were eventually commercialized and miniaturized. And nowadays we have things like glitter bombs and fart spray. Our desire for tomfoolery truly knows no bounds. Of course, there is a line between a malicious and a non-malicious booby trap. We've all seen those viral prank channels where someone pulls a fast one on someone else, usually where one partner drops water or colored slime or something on the other. Everyone's laughing, having a good time, the clips take off, it's all in good fun. But we've also seen prank channels completely collapse because behind the scenes, the couples aren't actually enjoying living on a knife's edge 24/7, not being able to trust their partner, waiting for the next prank to drop, leading to their breakup. Or how about those family channels where parents are pranking their kids and their kids break down and cry in the video? A bunch of these channels have gone down after the pranks became so cruel the parents were charged with child abuse. What makes a prank not cruel is when the person who's the butt of the joke is okay with it. But even then, that standard only applies in instances where there's a previous relationship between pranker and prankee. Going back to our Trump sign again, there is no previous relationship to be respected here. The guy was simply infringing on somebody else's property. He fucked around and found out. He's clearly not okay with getting shocked, but because he's an aggressor and not a friend, we don't need to give him that same level of consideration. Is that a universal rule when it comes to booby traps, though? Well, the court's answer seems to be no. A foundational case on this topic, Katko versus Brinney 1971, laid out the legal limits of booby traps. The Brinney family inherited a house in Mahaska County, Iowa, despite living hours away. A local to the area, Marvin Katko, regularly broke into uninhabited houses to steal whatever he could get his hands on. The Brinneys couldn't be at their Iowa property consistently, and over the course of the 10 years they owned the house, it was routinely burglarized and vandalized. Eventually, during one of the visits to clean and fix the place back up, Edward Brinney rigged up a shotgun to fire at an intruder's leg if they opened the door to the master bedroom. Weeks later, Katko and an accomplice broke into the Brinney house, looking for more stuff to steal. Katko opened the master bedroom door, and his right leg from the knee down was blown off by the point-blank force of the shotgun. Katko spent 40 days in the hospital and decided to sue the Brinneys on recovery. The law sided with Katko. The judge stated that a Second Amendment right to self-defense is pretty clear. If Edward Brinney had been in the house and killed Katko with the shotgun himself, there would be no issue. But this wasn't strictly a self-defense case, since the owners of the property weren't actually there. The judge also rejected the idea that the Brinneys had a duty to ensure that the home was made safe for trespassers as well. But the judge did say that purposely setting a booby trap, which employed deadly force, even though it was aimed at the leg, was a form of battery because the damage caused by the device was indiscriminate and not purposeful, making Edward Brinney neglectful. Katko was awarded $30,000 in damages, which is a lot in 1971 money, but it's far lower than the jail time for Brinney that Katko was after. Okay, so even if there's no prior relationship between the booby trapper and booby trappee, and the victim of the trap is simply a thief or a vandal who's breaking the law himself, the trapper does have a legal duty to ensure his booby traps don't rise to the level of deadly force. But material damages? Oh boy, is that shit 100% fair game. Check out this clip.
This is gonna be great. This is gonna be great.
This is so ridiculous. You realize that, right?
No, it's not. Fuck Trump. That's
Look,
what I say.
I know, but I hate Trump too, Chad. But you don't see me out here destroying property. It's probably illegal.
You know what's a fucking crime? To have a fucking Trump van sign.
Oh my God.
In the main line.
I can't believe you said that. What is wrong with you?
Oh, what is that? Oh my God.
What is that?
Oh my God.
What happened?
Oh my God. Oh!
What?
These fucking people! They're fucking assholes!
I have to get to work. Don't tell me you got a flat.
Look what they did!
Oh boy.
Fucking asshole!
Yeah, these idiots, who are still masking up in their own fucking car in 2024 for some reason, decided it was a good idea to run down a line of Trump election signs, and they were all lined with spike traps, taking his tires out. This has happened several times, and each time, as far as I understand it, this is entirely fair game, because it's not deadly force. It's just, once again, a retard fucking around and finding out. You did this to yourself, buddy. The more I talk about this topic, though, the more I realize that political campaign lawn signs are really only commonly used in the US and Canada, though they apparently began to creep into the UK with the Brexit campaign. At least, so says the internet. If I got that wrong, post it in the comments. These political signs all follow the same basic construction. There's a wire frame in the shape of an H, made out of low-quality metal, rigid enough to not fall over, but cheap enough to be mass-produced. The bar of the H is meant for you to be able to stick your foot in it and push the sign into the ground, but more often than not, it just ends up bending the sign. The sign itself is made out of corrugated plastic, which is the same as corrugated cardboard. It's just plastic instead, which seems pretty obvious. The front and back are two solid sheets, upon which logos and slogans are printed, and the middle wavy part put in for stability is called the fluting. The fluting is sized such that the wireframe can snugly fit within it, eliminating the need to actually fasten the sign to the frame. It's not all that secure, but it's secure enough to last a few months out in the elements, which is pretty much as long as it's needed for. The political effectiveness of lawn signs is actually pretty low. One study showed the effect of lawn signs on the vote turnout for a political candidate was around a 1% increase, which isn't nothing. It's certainly worth doing considering how cheap the signs are to produce, but it's not a major factor. A far more substantial impact of these signs is that it turns out voters across the board, both for the candidate and for other candidates, since the sign simply reminds people to vote, regardless of who they're voting for. Additionally, it gives the supporters of a candidate a good old shot of placebo, making them think they're doing something when they're really actually not doing all that much. Multiple local governments have tried to ban the display of these signs in the United States, and without exception, all of these attempts end up getting shot down in the Supreme Court under the First Amendment. Theft or vandalism of political signs are also covered under the appropriate statutes, though signs placed on public property, like in a park or the grassy areas along the side of the road, are legally considered to be abandoned property and may be disposed of as litter by anyone. Sometimes the people who try to do this are arrested, but their charges are almost always dropped. These type of signs are basically a giant target for political vandals, as I've already shown you, which is why booby trapping them is a somewhat common practice. It's no wonder. Under normal circumstances, a person's politics is usually somewhat private. There's no real reason to know the political views of your neighbor, unless you've had an explicit discussion on the topic. However, the political lawn sign makes it public. It's a declaration that the people who live here support a specific candidate, and therefore probably support at least some of their proposed policies. Sometimes it's meant to be, and it's taken as, a straightforward virtue signal, like wearing a pin or putting pronouns in your bio or something. Like, for example, this person.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to share my mini microaggression for the day against Trump supporters. I was supposed to buy a table and some chairs from someone in our neighborhood group, and I realized that they were someone who had some nasty Trump signs outside of their house. And before I went over there, I sent her a message and I said, sorry, I'm no longer interested. I can't spend any money right now because of Trump's new tariffs and taxes. Inflation's gonna go up and we need to save all we can right now. Good luck.
Trump sign bad, Biden sign good, simple as. Before you go thinking that this sort of thing is only done by progressive weirdos who can't stand the existence of Trump supporters, know there is plenty of examples of this going both ways. For every viral clip of some deranged lunatic stabbing a Trump sign, there's a viral clip of a creepy dude stealing Kamala signs in the middle of the night. Multiple people have complained of receiving threatening letters in the mail, either from neighbors or from their HOA or their local government, demanding Kamala signs be taken down. One sheriff in Ohio wanted to record the addresses of Kamala supporters by taking note of the presence of the signs. And not to be outdone, a 90-year-old man was attacked by 4 young males for putting up Trump signs. All of this is ridiculous regardless of what side you're on. This is clear free speech. People should not be getting harassed, intimidated, or attacked over who they support. They shouldn't have their stuff damaged or stolen. None of this is acceptable. I didn't like either of these candidates, but it's still your right to support them and display that support proudly. That is your free speech right. And this sort of thing is just another small symptom in a long list of symptoms of political radicalization. These people have genuine hatred towards something that really shouldn't be generating those feelings. Political flags work much the same way, especially when displayed on a house. These are public statements of support, and occasionally people react to them on TikTok in much the same way.
I went toe to toe with my neighbor yesterday who has had a Trump flag up on his door for like a fucking year. We had a huge blowout yesterday. Today, fucking flag is gone. He tucked in his tail like a fucking coward. You can't ever tell me I can't do shit, because this man was ride or fucking die. And the minute a tiny little woman says something to him, he tucks in his tail and runs. These men are nothing but fucking cowards, and I am so excited to just tell every single one of them to fuck off.
I have a hunch that flags are taken a bit more seriously than signs due to their nationalistic origins, but it's still roughly the same meaning. An added benefit to flags is that you can fly them off the back of your vehicle, making them flutter while you drive. This shit is tacky, by the way. I know you might think you're attaching a cool superhero cape for your truck, but in actuality, you just look like a tool. I feel the exact same way about those idiots who drive around town flying Mexican flags at the side of their car on Cinco de Mayo too, or any other similar cause. Now you can take your public statement of allegiance on the go. Now everyone you come across can get to know what was normally just a small private part of you. I recall a video going viral during the 2020 election cycle. It's been scrubbed off the internet, but I've still got a copy of it in my files somewhere, so I'll edit it in. Of a squad of privately owned trucks flying giant Trump flags down in Texas, trying to run a Biden campaign bus off the road by aggressively swerving and driving around it as it was leaving town. I get it, guys, you don't like Biden. Fair enough, but this is fucking ridiculous. There is no way these people are good people. You know what's more ridiculous, though? The revelation that FEMA wasn't giving aid to hurricane victims if they had Trump signs in their fucking lawn. I'm sure you've heard about this, right? There were some leaked text messages sent to on-the-ground FEMA workers, where one of the listed rules was avoid homes advertising Trump, meaning Trump lawn signs or Trump flags or stickers on the car, anything like that. FEMA's director responded by saying this was the action of one random shitty middle manager who was abusing their position to do a little praxis, and it wasn't actually their policy to engage in this sort of political partisanship. The person in question was fired over the texts, but she later gave an interview claiming the practice wasn't just her, it was actually culture-wide at FEMA, though not their official on-paper policy.
They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment. They just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you.
And when questioned by Congress, the director admitted that while this incident was not how she wanted to run the organization, and that her investigation was still ongoing, she could confirm that 20 houses with Trump signs were skipped because the on-the-ground aid workers felt uncomfortable helping them.
My last question for you is in regards to community trends. Marnie Washington had alleged that that was what was put into a system that would mitigate these interactions if they felt that it was dangerous. And these communities, a lot of them were conservative and Trump supporters, that they felt that FEMA had created an environment that had stated that those people had made them feel uncomfortable, and that was the reasoning for them passing over these homes. What can you tell me about community trends in regards to this allegation that you made?
Our disaster survivor assistance teams, part of what they do is go out into the community to understand what the impacts are and to understand what the survivor needs are. This is often called community trends, but things that we are looking at are impacts to access, roads that are out, water infrastructure, needs of the community, like many places around South Carolina required oxygen bottles.
If I can just interrupt you real quick, how many people have been impacted by avoidance and de-escalation? Do you have a number for that just nationally, or is there a database for that?
I can tell you that for this particular incident at the direction of our employee, 20 homes were skipped.
Now, to be fair, she's specifically citing FEMA's policy of de-escalation here, which in a normal situation makes sense. Like if you're an aid worker distributing food or something, and you come across a crack shack, and the guy comes outside waving a gun at you and telling you to fuck off. Well, it doesn't matter if you might need hurricane relief. You're going to the next house. But the allegation here is that this de-escalation policy has been improperly used as a blanket excuse to claim that someone's political views have made the workers in question feel uncomfortable, and so they skipped 20 Trump houses. If that's true, that's pretty fucking bad. In that same vein, we do have at least one home security video of a private volunteer, not a FEMA worker this time, though the video has been reposted with the claim that this is someone from FEMA. It's not. This person is working for a private charity, also doing hurricane relief, and she declares that one victim's Trump signs are a problem, and their presence will impact whether or not they receive any future help.
I'm sorry. No, it's the last. I'm sorry. That's all right. I'm really conflicted. I have a lot more stuff to give, but I am not a fan of Donald Trump, so these signs are a problem for me. So I'm going to have to think about it. Okay.
Now, once again, this person is not from FEMA. Private entities have way more leeway to pick and choose who they want to help. But when it comes to something like this, it's always going to be immoral to be partisan with your aid, even if it might be legal. There is more to say about FEMA and their more recent shit show, but that is not the topic of today's video. I'll get into that down the road sometime. Today's video is about election lawn signs and public declarations of support for a political candidate or a movement in a way that goes beyond simple conversation. It's also about booby traps too, because people regularly booby trap those signs since they're so easy to fuck with. In fact, you might be asking yourself, did I just take two mostly unrelated topics, booby traps and political signs, and smush them together into one video because neither could actually fill a full script on their own? And the answer to that is, yes, I did.